Yeah, no, it's only Philly that does those things.
All right. We're talking about Philly. I know Ray's on the call. I don't want to let me ever use my other camera. It's so weird. All right, guys. And let me 28 guests. Holy shit. Hold on here. Let me get everybody in here. Amber, Beth, Moises, Jay. All right, I'm just going to kick out the new tickers so I can easily see people when they join. Should they join? Here's Pixar. Okay, Robbie. And then I'll kick that no ticker out, and we are good to go. All right, good morning, Jamie, Bram, Tom, and Bram. How's it going with all your? I know we talked a bunch. Well, whatever. Disregard. I'm in a group thing. I'm not going to start a whole side conversation. Okay. So today I was asked to talk again about objections, and so I'm going to talk about objections today. Let me pull up my notes. And as a reminder to everybody else, just like every week, if there's certain topics that you want to make sure that we talk about, open Mike at officialsalestips.com. Drop me a note. Mike, I'm sucking at this. Help me with this. Cool. All right. So let's dive in. As it relates to objections, there are pre-objections. There's the turn in the middle of an objection, and there's practice. Let me close my door. By the way, it's going to be 66 degrees here in Boston. So it's amazing. Freaking out. I literally canceled a couple meetings I had later today so I could sit in the sun. Let's drive. Okay. So the pre-objection. So pre-objection is if you understand the objection that you're going to get ahead of time and you already have something prepared. All right. And let me look at I'm going to pull something up as a doc to reference here. While I'm doing that, what are the objections? And Moises, I'll go over to you. I know this came from your side of the business. What are some objections you guys typically get?
I usually get objections that say we already went with a competitor or it's not something that we need right now, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just getting started. Yep. Not a priority. Okay. All right. Too expensive. All right, Nick. I got a lot of things in here. All right. Cool. So first, let's talk about the pre-objection. So the pre-objection is basically where you already know they're going to say, or everybody says some version of, it's not a priority. I'm just starting to get low. I'm just looking, or we already have somebody or whatever. So here, what we want to do is we actually want to bring it up in the overview of what it is that we do before the objection actually comes. And we want to have this be, if possible, a highlight of what we do. So for example, we already have something. Hey, so I'm glad we have this. I wanted to get in touch with you. I work specifically with companies that already have a solution for coaching to identify the one or two areas of gaps they're getting from that coaching and see if we can fill it in. Yep, I'm giving you a call to see if we can connect. Our company is a coaching company. I'm just using coaching, and where we work best is where companies already have a current provider. There's a couple of reasons for that. I'll tell you later about those reasons. Hey, I'm reaching out. I know this is not a priority. We actually work with people who are not prioritizing at this moment a certain software because it allows us to be prepared before it is important to have this stuff done. Hey, I'm calling you because we work with companies like John Deere, Salesforce, and Amazon, and all of the companies we work with don't actually have a priority for a product and typically already have a solution that requires them to not have a product like ours. And that's exactly why I'm reaching out today. So this removes their ability to just give that objection because you're like, this is actually the reason I'm reaching out, or this is actually who I specialize in, or this is actually who we work best with is companies, or this situation is true. Second thing I'll say in here is to make that even stronger is if you have a specific reason or mechanics to your thing that make that true. So for example, you sell, Josh, I know you put a thing in here. It's like, I'm just getting started the process. Josh sells a software that helps people build and organize their collateral, their marketing collateral. So I might say hey, yeah, I'm sure you're just in the beginning of the process. That's exactly where you should be at this point. And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys today, because once we work specifically with companies who haven't started the process, because once you unpack your needs as it relates to marketing collateral, you're going to inevitably find that there's a bunch of hidden issues that this will open up docs that are in wrong people's names, docs that are being used in multiple different places they shouldn't be. Suddenly, different people in the organization are going to care about getting involved. And so it will take a lot more time to go from I found a solution to let's use it the correct way, not because the solutions are complicated, but because it's going to open up new worms within the business. So I'm glad we're talking now as you're just in the research process, but I'm going to show you how we can speed up that process. We work specifically with people that are getting started in the research process. And the reason is because we've been through this as marketers ourselves, having worked with some of the largest companies on the planet. And we now know the 4 or 5 landmines you're probably going to jump on by accident as you go through internally to figure out which collateral we need, where do we need it, who should be in charge of it. And we can help walk you through that. So I'm glad that we're talking now versus waiting until you found out that you've already walked in a few landmines. I'm going to help you walk through that. So what I'm doing there, guys, is I'm thinking about the mechanics of my offer that make it truly good that you are just starting in the process, that it's not a priority. So if you're just starting the process, there's a couple of examples. If it's not a priority right now, put this in 2 different buckets. One is a cold call objection, like, no, it's not a priority. And one is like, we've talked and they're like, no, thank you. This is no longer a priority. On the cold call side of things, if this is not a priority, all of my, for the pre-objection, I would do what I said. Hey, I know that I'm reaching out to you. I'm certain this is not a priority for you. And I'm actually glad it's not a priority for you because all of our customers who start with us, it's not a priority. And the good news is we can actually show you where, how to get this stuff done easily so that you don't have to add a new priority to your plate or reaching out. And I know this is not a priority, which is the reason that we've been so successful in the market is working with people who have not prioritized this because we have made the process to install something like this so simple, having done it so many times that it doesn't have to add to your list of priorities. Let's talk blah, 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 okay? On the flip side, you're selling and then you're like, do you want to buy? And they go, no, it's just not a priority right now. Or you're like, send the email out. You're like, hey, Bob, where the fuck did you go? And they're like, sorry, it's not a priority right now. I don't have a pre-objection for that. But I would respond to those people with, I have to fill in my CRM why this is no longer a priority. Can you help me fill this out? Or I have to fill out in my CRM why this is not a priority. Is it political stuff? Other things got in the way. This was too expensive, and give a few options. I shouldn't say I don't have a pre. Another pre that I have here, which is for the calls. At the end of the call, like you guys have people ghost you and stuff, right? Everybody has people that ghost them. So what I want to do at the end of calls is I have my general 3 questions, which is, hey, if this didn't work out, what are the most likely 1 or 2 reasons? If that were to happen, what would be the reason? Or what would you do? And what are your next 1 or 2 steps? However, if I know there's like a classic objection I'm going to get or ghosting or whatever, loss of interest or whatever, I will just ask that same question, but I'm going to add in if as it relates to objection. So here's what I mean. We go, hey man, what are the next couple steps from here? Great. If as it relates to this losing priority, if that were to happen, what are the most likely 1 or 2 reasons? As it relates to you guys just being in the beginning of the process and wanting to punt this down the road, what are 1 or 2 things that might cause that to happen? As it relates to the pricing being expensive, if that were to happen, what are the 1 or 2 things that would maybe cause you guys to feel that way? So I'm going to call out the objection ahead of time to pull it out. That's my pre-objection handling response, basically, at the end. And I'm going to finish with, like, if that were to happen, what would you do? If you guys were to decide it wasn't a priority, what would you do? If you guys said it was too expensive, what would you do? And this will get them to be like, okay, well, I don't know, or I have to come back to you, or I have to just figure it out. Or that's what my boss says. That's what my boss says. And then we can talk to them there. Would you be comfortable with that? How long would you be comfortable with that? So I think this is cool. Yeah, great. I love your product. That's kind of interesting. Great. What are the next steps for you? Yeah, I got to think about it internally. Cool. As it relates to this quarter of losing priority, what do you think are the most likely 1 or 2 reasons that after going internally, this might have lost priority? Yeah, we might have had I've got some other bigger projects we're working on. Oh, okay, cool. How long are you comfortable with those projects taking priority over something like this? Well, this is important, but I gotta placate to my boss a little bit, but I think this is important. Okay, cool. So if that were to happen, priorities were to shift, what would you do? Well, I'd have to create a business case of some kind, figure out why we should prioritize this. Great. Let's have that conversation. Is it unreasonable for us to have that conversation tomorrow? Okay. So they deal with the at the end of the call, what I'm looking to do is actually suss out the objection. If something were to happen as it relates to the thing I know it's going to be, what are the most likely reasons that would have happened? Then I'm going to suss out their ability to handle that objection. Then I'm going to suss out their comfort with that. How long would you be comfortable with that happening? And then I'm going to suss out if we have a solution to that. Okay, if that happens, then it's too expensive, whatever it is, what would you do? This will now typically get them to try to start solving the problem. I want to lose weight. Come to my gym. Sounds great. If you, as it relates to, leaving here and deciding in the end, it's just not a priority. What do you think are the most likely reasons you might come up to that decision? Well, I am pretty busy at work. How long are you comfortable being busy at work and that interfering with you going to the gym? Well, I guess it's a good point. I guess, I need to prioritize both those things. Okay, cool. So if you were comfortable, if you ended up saying like, hey, I got to prioritize work instead of going to the gym, like what would you do in that situation? Well, I'd probably have to start, thinking about how going to the gym is actually going to help me at work. Okay, cool. How would you tell me more about that? Well, yeah, I mean, really, if I work out, then I'll be more fucking focused at work. Sounds like a plan. So do you feel confident going into this conversation with yourself about whether it is or is not a priority? I do. Thank you so much. Okay. This is a perfect world, by the way. I know this is a role play. I would say, like, with objections, 60, 70% of the time, you can't overcome the objection because the objection is really just like, I'm nervous. I need to get to a calm state. So don't think that there's a silver bullet for objections. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Questions on what I'm saying here? Okay. Cool. Thank you, Dave. I could use the engagement. Helps me know that people are fucking here. Thank you, Doug, for jumping in. You're cool. Don't worry. Unless you got something you're trying to jump in with. All right. Josh asked a question here. Hey, totally get the, like, we talk to people early. We like to talk to people early idea, but what about when they're like, no, like, thank you for your call. We're going to now go evaluate other companies. Cool. Same kind of thing that I was just talking about then. We should be like, hey, as it relates to talking with other companies, what are your next 1 or 2 steps from here? Cool. If you were to talk to other companies and were not willing to get back on a phone call with me to say how that went, what do you think are the most likely reasons? I'd be comfortable getting back on a call with you. Okay, cool. So if I were to send an invite for you to meet with me, what would you do? I would accept it. Great. Sounds great. So, or let me give another example. Hey, we're at the end of the call now. Sounds like you're interested in whatever. You're going to go talk to we like to work with people that are working with other companies, that are talking to other companies. It makes you a much more educated buyer, and you start asking much, much, much better questions. So what our sales process typically is we're going to talk today. We want you to then go get educated by talking to some other people. And then we have a really interesting final call where we can give some perspective on which of those companies to work with. One good thing about our company is we actually already have enough clients to do what it is we want to do. And we're not owned by PE needing to 10X every year. So we have no financial incentive to encourage you to sign up with us if it's not going to be the perfect fit. And we do have a financial incentive to make sure that you love us because we know that you'll then encourage us to other people to work with us. So our process is what we like to highlight about our process is having that final conversation with you. So Josh, to your point, hey, look, we are specially designed to have that last conversation because we've been around for 10 years and we have one of the biggest customers in the planet that allows the business to grow without us having to bring any new clients on. So I'd love to be able to give you advice as to what questions to ask those people when you have those conversations.
Hey, Mike, how about like along those lines? Is it okay to ask the question? Is there anything from me? I understand you want to evaluate other options, other competitors. Is there anything you didn't hear from me today that you're aware that they do or anything like that?
No, because they're always going to say no. What you're basically doing is like, hey, I totally get that you're dating other guys, but like, can you judge me up and down and score me on like 1 to 10 how hot I am compared to the other guys?
Okay.
It's never, they're like, no, you're great.
What about?
So go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike.
Go.
In that scenario, what about like, all right, so like, how do we eliminate them from the evaluation, right? So like, just asking that direct question.
If you know they love the product,
Okay.
you can do that. But if they don't, now it's like I'm on a date with you, and I'm like, how do we make you not date other guys? I'd be like, what the fuck? We don't, because I want to date other guys to see who the best fit is to get married to. So I do understand that if they are into it, if they're like, I'm feeling you, I want to get married to you. So my answer there though would be, whenever there's uncertainty, you want to put things into more clear buckets. So instead of that, what I would say is, okay, cool. When you're evaluating companies, I typically find the buckets you're evaluating people on are features, ease, and risk. Like, is it getting you what you want? Is it easy to do it? And is there any risk to it not working? And so this is why some company might go with IBM in the 80s, because it didn't have the features. It wasn't easy, but it was low risk. It's why people buy Tesla. There is a high risk, but there's tons of features. So when you think about what you're looking for in these companies, how would you rate these buckets? What's the how are you weighting those buckets? Features, ease, and risk. Great. And then as it relates to us, if we were to fail in one of these buckets, we were to stink. No one's perfect in one of these buckets. Which bucket do you feel like we're the least strong in? Cool. It's risk or whatever. Awesome. Awesome. Sick. We suck. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. This is actually, I'm so glad that you said that though, because that's the one that we talk quite a bit about in that final conversation, because you can't really see features, ease, or risk until you've had a chance to look at everybody else. So why don't we do this? So because that last conversation is one where we can really bring a lot of advice regarding whatever your next steps are, whether it's with us or somebody else. Why don't we talk after you've had those conversations, and we'll specifically highlight either features, ease, or risk as it relates to us and the other companies. Would that be unfair? Would that be all right to do that? That's what I would say to you, Josh. Put him in the buckets. If anybody's ever generally nervous, you want to put him in the bucket.
I had a similar situation where for one of my deals, they brought up as a concern is that I really like the product, but we haven't explored any other option and we don't know what's out there. So then I gave them two options, and I said hey, look, I'm also going to give you this business case, which will help you walk you through our platform versus the other two competitors. That way that you can really make the case for us, but you can also customize the slides however you'd like. And then I said that hey, look, let's schedule a call after, kind of same ordeal. Do you think that the way that I set it up was okay? But then would you have changed the way that I kind of structure that, one? And then two, should I include what you just said in that call?
I would include what I just said, but what you said is great. I would just restructure the order, because if I say to you hey man, what do you want to do? And you're lose weight, and I'm cool, I'll send you a list of gyms. You haven't agreed that that's your plan, man. So I need to first get you to agree that there is a problem and that you're open to a solution. So I want to say to you, hey man, so if you were to talk to these other companies, and you had to decide which one is right, and you decided we weren't right, what are the most likely ways you would communicate that to your boss? Well, I'd probably have to create a business case. Cool. What would it be okay if I were to create a business case for you? Yes, you can create a business case for me. So I need to get them to agree to that item. Not I'll make a business case, but hey, if you were to look at other companies, what would make that really challenging? Well, I'd have to, create some sort of matrix or whatever. Great. Would it be helpful? I'll send you a pre-filled out matrix. Would that be helpful? Yes. Or if this were to not work out and you were to not go with us, what are the most likely reasons? We found somebody else who was a better fit. Awesome. If I were to offer you a couple of people that are competitors of ours and a matrix that tells you how we can be, we compare, would that be okay? Cool. Other way I would do it, by the way, when it comes to competitors, this is just a competitor differentiator thing, is I'll give you two versions of this. Competitor objection. Number one is I'll put competitors into three buckets that we all know. Hey, when it comes to in the blank space, whatever we are, in the accounting software, whatever, in the space that we're in, there's basically three different types of companies. There's sort of the all-in-one companies. They're the ones that are like in your CRM. They already have everything done. If they're great, and so because they're all-in-one, they typically aren't great at everything. Then you have the ones that are sort of point solutions. They're like the perfect fit for what they do, but they don't interact with everybody else as nicely. And then you sort of have the in-betweens that are that can be great point solutions and great integrated solutions with other things you have, so long as you have the right things that they're integrated with. That's basically the bucket of what we have. For you guys, what do you feel like is the most important for you? Not knowing who the companies are, what they cost, whatever. Or in our space, there's basically three buckets. You've got the really expensive ones, the really cheap ones, and the ones in the middle. What's the most important for you? So I like to put them into buckets to be like, forget the names of the companies, forget the features of the companies. Generally, what are you looking for? The other competitive thing I have to say is I will specifically tell them how to decide. Here's what I mean. So I'll be like, hey, in our space, you basically have this big competitor over here or this group of competitors over here. They are perfect for anybody who cares about X, Y, or Z. And if that's what you care about, you should go with them, truly. Where you have these people, and they're great if you care about A, B, and C. And if that's what you care about, you should go with them. What we are good at is A, B, and X. And if that's what you care about, you should go with us. So I'm not putting anybody down. I'm literally just being like, we have the Yankees. If you care about winning super championships, you should go with them. We've got the Padres or whatever the fuck other team sucks. I have no idea. And if you care about like having like a home team that you can really cheer for, you'd go with them. I'm not saying you're a good or bad person if you choose one of them. That's what I would say for competitors. I know we're at time, but I'm going to take 30 seconds to give the biggest advice that I have as it comes to objections, which is any objection makes you nervous and makes them nervous. So we need to diffuse the situation. And there's two ways that I do this. The first is I say it. Man, this is awkward. This is uncomfortable. This is weird. This is a weird conversation. You're sort of being upfront. I really appreciate that. Look at us. We're being vulnerable. So I'll diffuse it. I fucking call it out. And number two is instead of trying to fight the objection, you said yes, I want you to say no. You said no, I want you to say yes. I do the AB, I'll call it, trying to make it memorable. AB mini me. So I will minimize the request and I'll put it in an A and B bucket. Hey, can we meet next week? No. This is uncomfortable. Why don't we do this, man? We can either A, meet next week, but only for a few minutes, or B, meet in 2 weeks, but we do have the full call. Which is best for you? Hey, we're gonna look at competitors. Totally get that. It's kind of uncomfortable, right? I want you to work with me because obviously I have a financial incentive for you to work with me. That's weird. So why don't we do this? Either A, I can give you a business case that'll help you see the differences between us and the other competitors, or B, we talk in a couple of weeks after you've had that conversation with them, which is more comfortable for you. Neither of those things is I won't look at competitors. Neither of those things is I will meet with you this week for an hour. They are lesser mini requests. And they're both I'm giving an A or B option. Cool. All right. I have gone over. Guys, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Deuces.